Hey y'all, Bill Quirk with the Defensive Training Group and Shoot GTR. Here to do a quick video for you talking about one of the most popular concealed weapon, concealed carry platforms that are out there these days. That's the Sig Sauer P365 series. And what I want to do is go through the gun, some of the different models, kind of the evolution of the models and whatnot, and then talk about some of the modifications, because we all know that I can't leave anything stock, and other accessories, holsters, and things like that, just to give you an idea of what's available for this particular platform, because it is very, very popular and for good reason. So the P365 has been out for several years, and since its inception has been one of the most popular, most frequently encountered, most frequently purchased concealed carry pistols on the market. And it started with something kind of like this. This is the original P365, and it's a very small, very slim, but still reasonable capacity, full 9mm. They do make them in 380, but all the ones I'm going to show you are 9mm. This one comes with a 10-round magazine. It has a couple of versions. One's got this slight extension here, and it also comes with a flush flat fit if concealment is, at a priority, or you really need something that's going to be as minimal as possible. Very good gun, very slim profile, especially for the 10-round magazine. Came with good sights. Most of the modern versions are or can be had optics ready, and some of them will look like this guy, and they'll come with the same sights, the same Sig factory sights, but there's a removable plate for a red dot, and we'll talk more about that in a second. They have a proprietary rail interface for a specific light lockup. Streamlight makes their TLR7 sub that's cut with a specific clamp. One of the versions has a specific clamp for the P365 series. So if you get a light for this, one of these versions, the standard frame or the XL frame, that have this interface, just these two grooves here on both sides, make sure the light that you get is designed for that interface. In the case of the Streamlight TLR7 sub, it'll say on there it's for the P365, P365 XL, and that's different on some of the other versions. I'll show you that in a second. So again, very small, available with manual safeties that are pretty good for a lot of pistols. Unfortunately, when they incorporate a manual safety, it's almost an afterthought, kind of a marketing thing, just so they can say, we have safeties, we're very safe. In the case of the manual safety for the P365, they're 1911 style. They're very unobtrusive, but they are ergonomic and they are very usable, even under stress, under an expedited presentation. So this was the original one, very, very good. That morphed into this version, which is the XL. And so the grip is slightly longer. In this case, you have a 12-round magazine, flush fit, and the barrel and slide is slightly extended as well. Otherwise, the grip is almost the same, except a little bit longer, like I said. The same interface up front. This is an older version that was optics ready, but in this case, when you took this plate off, you did lose your rear sight, unless the new plate incorporated some kind of rear sight. And like I showed you on this one, which we'll talk about in a second, the new version, you keep your rear sight, and it's just got a standalone plate where the optic will mount. So this was the next version, the P365 XL. And then we got into the P365 X Macro. And this one was when I really started to pay attention. I've shot these two quite a bit for students and these demonstrations and whatnot. And they're very good, they're very shootable, but because they are quite slim, they're really too slim, I find, for my hands. I've got bigger hands, I'm a bigger guy. And the issue we get into is when we grip, we don't grip like this. We grip in an oval, and a really slim gun, you don't get as much surface area contact in this hollow right here, and the gun can torque left and right. And I find that unless I really clamp down and really focus on my grip, the gun will shift a little bit more, especially under recoil. Being smaller guns, they are snappy. These particularly are very snappy, but still very controllable, very shootable. You just got to do your part, which is always going to be the case. So I really started to pay attention to the 365 series when the X Macro came out. So for a couple of reasons. One, the grip is slightly wider and has the barest hint of palm swells here that really felt good in my hand, my big meat hooks. The back strap is removable, and the gun comes with multiple back straps, so you can increase this arch back here to fill that void in the back of your hand. and it's a 17 round magazine. Now, one thing that I will say, just a word of, not warning, but something to be aware of, these magazines are extremely size efficient. That's how they were able to cram 17 rounds into something this size. As a result, though, they are challenging to load, and especially when you first get them, having one of the mag loader type devices will significantly help you. It prompted me to finally go and buy another one because that last 17th round can be a challenge to get in. There's an accessory I'll show you in a second that will ease your burden a little bit there. So back to the X Macro. The standard X Macro comes with a 3.1 inch barrel, so it's the same barrel out of this version of the P365. And then the slide is extended to the same length as the XL variant. You see the slides are the same length, but there is this expansion chamber. They're calling it a compensator, but it's a little bit different. That is incorporated into the edge of the end of the slide here. And what that's going to do is, as the bullet leaves the muzzle of the shorter barrel, the barrel ends right about here. Some of those gases are vented up, and that helps drive the muzzle back down to give you a little bit more controllability under recoil. Because again, these are kind of snappy pistols. So this was the X Macro. This is the original version. Some other versions that have come out since then, you can get the TAC Ops version, which comes with several additional magazines, which is nice because these magazines are not cheap. It comes with a flared magwell that I'll show you because it's on another one of my guns here, and it's a standard slide that does not have this compensator. So the slide looks a lot like that. Well, actually, I'll show you. The slide looks a lot like this. So it doesn't have the comp here, and then this is the magwell. The standard TAC Ops is all black. This is one that I put together that I'll talk about in a minute. So the TAC Ops is an evolution of this without the compensator, but with more magazines and the magwell. And there's also a basic version that is this grip module, no magwell, and then the standard slide with no compensator and standard number of magazines. That one costs a little bit less than this one in the TAC Ops. So the newest version of the P365 is the P365 Fuse. And this one is the X Macro grip module. This one comes from the factory with a laser stipple, so it is a little bit more grippy, a little bit more aesthetically appealing perhaps. And the barrel and slide are a little bit longer as well. So you can see this one is it's a 3.1 inch barrel, 3.7 inch slide. And this one is, I believe it's a 4.3 if I'm not mistaken. So a little bit longer, it is optics ready with the plate system I talked about, comes with a black rear and a fiber optic front. Other two things that are on here, something that I particularly like being a lefty, is the slide release lever is slightly extended, and I've actually I got several of these from Sig direct, just the lever that I'm going to upgrade my other fire control units on all my P365 so they're the same, because for me, when I do my reload, I come underneath and catch, and so that helps me a little bit as a lefty. And it also comes with a nickel boron coated trigger, which feels a little bit smoother. I don't know if it is or not, but the triggers on all the ones that I've played with of the Fuse model have been very nice, and it felt just a little bit smoother than the standard one. The standard one is very good though by itself. So just like with the Sig P320, one of the really neat things about the P365 series is the modularity. So just like with your P320, the fire control unit, which is a chassis system that sits inside of your grip module, can be removed and you can switch out the different grip modules. So people were building these, and ultimately Sig produced one, something called the P365X, which is a XL grip module with a slightly longer 12-round magazine grip. They would buy one of those aftermarket or from Sig, take out your fire control unit, put it in there, put this slide back on, and now you had the same short slide with a slightly longer grip for a bit more purchase and a bit more magazine capacity. And so that was kind of neat. And as a result, Sig started to make that version. So you have the P365, which is short and short, the 365X, which is short, a bit taller, the XL, which is a bit taller and a bit longer. And so you can build any of those three from those parts because they're all kind of the same. They're all interchangeable. And then you have the X Macro, which can also use the fire control unit, but now you have an even longer grip module and then the same XL length slide. So a bunch of different versions, and if you're like me and you like tinkering with these things and building different things, it's just kind of neat, like Legos for men. Okay, so along those lines, let's talk about some of the versions that I put together, some of the enhanced versions, some of the things that I've done. So I showed you this one. This is the slide off of a P365 X Macro TAC Ops, and I had another FCU. This is a Sig grip module in the X Macro length and shape that I bought from Sig. Also has the removable back straps and whatnot with the factory magwell. It just happens to come in the coyote peanut butter color, if you will. So in order to build this pin right back here, you just pop that straight out. It doesn't require a lot of force. The chassis will lift out of the grip module, and then you put it in a new one, put the pin back in, and go to town from there. So it's very easy to switch back and forth. So I assembled this one. Standard slide. This is a barrel from a company called FDES Works. I'll talk about them in a second. This is a Streamlight TLR7 HLX. It's their newest offering. That is 1,000 lumens. It's a really good light, especially it's the brightest of the compact lights that are currently available. And then I've actually got an Acro P2 mounted on this thing with an adapter plate. And I did that because this slide eventually is going to go on another build that I'm going to put together when the parts come back in stock, and I'll show you that one when we get there. That's going to be something pretty neat. But I wanted an optic that sit a little bit higher for that particular application, so I'll save that for later. You'll notice this is one of my FCUs, the only FCU I've got that's got a curved trigger. All of my other ones have flat triggers, which is my preference, and that one's actually going to get a new flat trigger once I have time to do the install. So another version that I've got here is this guy, and this was put together with a couple of different from a couple of different guns. I had a standard P365 with the 3.1 inch slide, and then this is an X Macro grip assembly that I purchased from Sig. And I've got the magwell and backstrap here. I said the backstrap is removable. This is a combination, a set that you can get from Radian Weapon Systems, and it's a backstrap and then a flared magwell that fits on, and there's a detent that it engages with on the bottom here. And this feels really, really good. Gives you a little bit more of a pronounced arch here, almost like a CZ75 or a Brownian High Power that really locks that hand in to that beaver tail for good control. This has also got the Radian Weapon Systems afterburner compensator set up on here. And so put together, it's the short slide. It's the same slide from the standard P365. With the compensator, it comes out to the same length as the XL, which, like I said, is the same length as the X Macro, 3.7 inch. And so it fits flush. It's a nice, aesthetically pleasing package. This thing shoots very, very well. I like to say that it's a big gun masquerading as a small gun, or perhaps a small gun masquerading as a big gun. But as I've said before in other videos, I prefer a larger weapon because I know my capabilities with said weapon and a larger weapon are going to be enhanced. They're going to be more on par for what I want, what I need. This setup gives me a lot of the same advantages with very few downsides. It is a little bit slimmer, so I do have to lock in, even though this is the X Macro grip, which does have the palm swell. It still is slimmer than, say, a Glock 19 or a PDP or any of those. So I do have to make sure my grip is all the more perfect, but I can shoot these very well at speed and get very, very good results. This is, just to talk about some of the parts, this is the Streamlight TLR7 sub. Now this is the 1913 spec rail version, and the reason for that is on the X Macro grip module, instead of having the proprietary interface here with just the grooves, these are set up where you actually have the Picatinny rails, and may or may not be able to put a larger weapon light like a Surefire X300 or a Mod Light PL350. May not have the length to do that, although the newer PL350s, because you can adjust the lug, you can get them to fit on here. I've done it. But the Streamlights are perfectly optimized, and you can replace the key to get a nice snug fit that's going to be tight up against your trigger guard and give you good access to your switches, in either the case of that or of the HLX version that I talked about as well. So a bunch of different modifications. To talk about dots, this is the HoloSun EPS Carry, which is my favorite of the RMSC, the slimline red dots that are out there. You've got the shield arms, you've got the HoloSun 407 and 507K, and then you have the EPS series, EPS carry in this case, they're the narrower footprint. And this is an enclosed optic, so you have a window on the back and on the front. Still locks in, bolts into that 407, 507, or RMSC footprint, so it bolts directly onto the slide with no issues, and it's low enough that you can get a usable sight picture, a lower fifth type sight picture from your iron sights. The factory iron sights, don't need to change those if you don't want to. So it makes a very slim, very easy to carry and conceal package that's still very shootable and will get the job done as long as you get your job done and do your part. So that's kind of the guns, a lot of different things. We either sell or can get any of this stuff in the pro shop. So if you have questions, come in and talk to us. And we sell the guns, we sell the magazines, all that stuff. We can take care of you. And if you want to see any of mine, you can come in and ask and reach out to me, and I'll bring them in and show them to you in person. As far as holster options, you do need to be mindful of the variant that you have, because that different dust cover, the interface for the light, will affect holster fitment in certain Kydex holsters, depending on how tightly molded they're going to be. So make sure that you're getting a holster that's going to fit the 1913 spec rail if you're running an X macro, or the standard XL or P365X type rail if this is a version that you have. And I'll say now, the new fuse, and these will be available at some point, presumably as just a straight purchase from Sig or through a Sig dealer. But now they have 21 round magazines that you can use as a spare. So these come with the fuse. You get 2 of these and 1 17 round with the fuse, and they'll fit in any of these different platforms. Typically, when Sig is selling P365 magazines, what they'll do is they'll include the magazine, and then they'll include the necessary spacers, these plastic pieces that you can incorporate, put on with the to replace the standard base plate, and that will act as a spacer so that when you insert the magazine into the weapon, it gives you a buffer so that you don't over insert and risk jamming the magazine in or damaging your ejector or something along those lines. And the standard, like the X macro mags, will fit in any of the frames, and when you get one of these, they've got the spacers for the different frame sizes included in the package. We sell most of this or can source it in order for our vendors. If you have any questions at all, if you're interested in this stuff, do not hesitate to ask. Get a hold of me, come into the shop, talk to us, and we will do everything we can to help you. So if you have any questions, any comments, as always, leave them below. Give us a like, give us a share, and you all stay safe.